And the funny thing is now that if Bayern now were looking for a new coach, Thomas Tuchel would be a candidate.
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast. I'm your host, Markus Fjortoft, and as always, joined by Jan Fjortoft at the airport, Dad. So mind you, we have a little schedule to uphold, but nonetheless, welcome for another Bundesliga summary. A day later, I ran a marathon, so I'm trying to recover physically and mentally. But here we are, and there's a lot that's happened in the Bundesliga over the last week. There's been Germany selections, which we'll do a special for over the international break. There's been obviously Bayern and Leverkusen, but there's been a few managerial departures, a few new arrivals, as such, a lot to dissect. But first of all, how are you, Dad?
I'm fine, and first of all, a compliment to you and your fiancé running the Roma marathon, and wow, 3:30:08. That is a great time. Yeah. Fitter than your dad. I'm on my way. While I'm at an airport, I'm on my way to Frankfurt. I'm going to stay there for less than 24 hours, but it's because Eintracht Frankfurt got their 125th birthday. Not today, but they are celebrating it today, and I look forward to see my old teammates, see the leaders of Eintracht Frankfurt. I do look forward to that. And just before I came in, Markus, we got a sad news in terms of sport, as Pavlovic, the young starlet at Bayern, who is now in the German squad instead of Goretzka, his mentor, so to say, which is a good story in itself. He can't be there because he got a bit more cold than me, a bit more serious, so he won't be there for his first starter, potentially for Germany. But Markus, yes, it was a great weekend again, because it will always be a great weekend for neutrals when you can see that Leverkusen don't fall under the pressure. A club that never wants to lose. So we saw that at Karabakh, they were 2-0 down, coming back, winning that game in the dying seconds. And Darmstadt 1-0 up, and you thought, wow, is this going to be the round that Bayern will lose against Darmstadt? But then again, Bayern look like Bayern now, Markus. And I know people say it's only Lazio, it's only Mainz at home, it's only Darmstadt away. But Bayern look, play, and talk like Bayern again. So they put pressure on Leverkusen, but Leverkusen, they just, I'm not saying like a machine, because that is to underestimate them, because it's human beings that have to cooperate to understand the strategy of Alonso. But wow, are they impressive?
Yeah, it's two relatively good points. One being the machinery of Leverkusen, which they certainly are, but at the same time, the nature by which they accumulate these wins shows to overcoming sort of inevitably there will be a bit of fatigue, but there's also a lot of rotations from the Karabakh game now to the Freiburg game. 7 changes made. You're 2-0 down to Karabakh. By no means an impressive performance as such. Karabakh got a man sent off. They're up 2-0. Then they get back and win it. Not only win it, but they win it in regular time after being down for so many parts of the game. Patrick Schick picking up a bit of form. You see the sort of the importance of that. Him getting his first Bundesliga goal of the calendar year, believe it or not, despite his excellent form in the Europa League. And then they go to Freiburg there. Wirtz there as well. I mean, you mentioned Musiala. Imagine Wirtz and Musiala there, and who wouldn't make them the center of Germany's ambitions at the Euros. Just for context as well, Bayer Leverkusen have now 70 points. That's the second best tally ever at this point of the Bundesliga, only bettered by, surprise, surprise, Pep Guardiola in the 2013-2014 season. They had 74 points, didn't lose until round 28. Leverkusen now at round 26. For Bayern's sake, Dad, we also have to mention it was a poor Bundesliga season last year in terms of points accumulated, but Bayern have 5 more points than they had at this point last season. They ended the season, they won this season on goal difference against Dortmund at 71 points. Leverkusen now have 70 points, right? So obviously last season was poor, but even still, Tuchel, whether you call it unlucky or whatnot, are just up against an historically good Bayer Leverkusen as well, because you would have thought under any other circumstances, Bayern would have won this.
And the funny thing is now that if Bayern now were looking for a new coach, Thomas Tuchel would be a candidate. And it's interesting that the friend of our podcast, Christian Falke, was involved in a discussion pro and contra that they have in the Sportbild, that should they talk Tuchel into stay for another season, and he was against it. And his argument was he has got it right now, but it took him too long time. His main thing about that Bayern has more or less found himself now is, of course, that they have the central line now. He means that De Ligt should be the boss in defense anyway from day one. Tuchel will say he'll be injured, but De Ligt has also been on the bench when he's been fit. You got Thomas Müller there inside the team, who is always running around, doing his stuff, producing goals, being a coach on the pitch. You got Kimmich on the right back, which is probably the best place for him now. And we're talking about Pavlovic finding his place there with Goretzka in the middle. And then you have Musiala, of course. So Bayern finding themselves. Bayern, a draw in the Champions League against Arsenal. I think that both teams will be happy with that draw. I'm saying that because Arsenal need to show that they take the next step in terms of European triumph. I mean, Arsenal are on the brink of so much great now. But as a lot of clubs have understand over the years, to take that next step is the hardest. And I think Arsenal, I'm coming back to Bayern, but Arsenal showed that last season when they were leading the Premier League table, and Manchester City just took the title as they used to be. Same with Bayern last year. Same with teams like Inter, Real Madrid, Juventus, the big teams. And then you have the other teams that need to take that next step, like Napoli did in the Serie A, that Liverpool has done on occasions. But Liverpool, when Klopp came, they hadn't won the Premier League for ages. You always have to take that next step. And that's why I guess it's so impressive with Leverkusen this season, because Leverkusen now need to take the next step. 8 games to go. That is 24 points. They have a 10 points lead. I guess the goal difference will be it's equal now, but it will even be, I think the Bayern, when they are on this run, will take it. But the game in Freiburg, Markus, there was a Freiburg team who needed a bit of revenge after they were hammered by West Ham, so there could come a reaction on that. There was the rumor that turned into be true that Streich, their coach, who's been there for generations, he will leave. We'll talk more about that later. But still, there was something about Leverkusen that they got it all in control. I saw, as you saw that game, they're scoring 84 seconds. That is Florian Wirtz. That is the perfect start, of course, for any team, but especially for Leverkusen, who have the ability to kind of punish people when they open up their spaces. And yes, Leverkusen, they conceded 3-2, I think 11 minutes at 79th minute.
Yeah,
but
good goal from Freiburg and Doan.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, I was nervous on behalf of them. But for me, the moment of the game was Frimpong's cross to Schick with his left foot in the far corner. Man, that is a brilliant finish.
But that's what we love to see, though, Dad, because Patrick Schick was the goal scorer, the goal getter in Bundesliga, I'd say, up until Harry Kane come. But we remember how good Patrick Schick was. It must be delightful to see him sort of regaining that form.
Being out for a long time with injury. Then they got Boniface in, and he's out with injury. The last thing we hear from Germany now is that Boniface could be back at the end of this month. So that will give them an extra option again. But I'm also impressed the way Alonso, you were talking about that a bit, how he's mixing his team, how he keeps everybody fit, how he gets player in, what's his name?
Losek, yes.
Losek,
the young Czech.
Scoring a goal, and he hasn't been a lot involved, but still he feels he's a part of the project. And I think that is the main thing for any coach, because you need your squad. You need your squad the whole season. And you can see that now on Leverkusen. The they pay dividend on that kind of philosophy and strategy.
Absolutely. The earliest, considering Bayern are in the form they are in, so realistically, say Bayern are flawless in their sort of conclusion of the season, the earliest Bayer Leverkusen can win the league is in match day 31 with 3 games remaining. Just worth
and so sorry. Next round is the Klassiker. It's Bayern against Dortmund, and Leverkusen is playing Hoffenheim at home. You feel that both teams will get 3 points there. So I think that I don't think they will get the league that early. I think there gotta be a point when this team will lose a game, or will they go the whole way to like the Invincibles? But even added to the Invincible, the Arsenal fantastic team back in the days, they could go through Europa League, they could go through the Cup, and they could go through the league without losing. I mean, that is
it's too good. It's too good to be true, really. But Bayer Leverkusen keep on steamrolling. It is impressive. Also worth mentioning, Dortmund play Bayern in the Klassiker. For Dortmund, who won 3-1 against our dear Eintracht Frankfurt, that Mario Götze went back to Dortmund, scored, muted celebration, if any. Eintracht being where they kind of deserve to be. They're not playing really well. They're still in the European spots. They have Augsburg, mind you, chasing them back after they made 4 wins in a row. But Dortmund have, in the next 6 games, or 5 games, I guess, in the Bundesliga, they have the top 6, right? So it will be pretty definitive in terms of where their season goes, depending on that run-in. They also have Athletic Madrid in the Champions League, which will be a tough task for a Dortmund team that have yet to really convince this season.
No, and on the other hand, that is impressive as well, that you're still up there. And I think that the win against Frankfurt was very vital for them, as you were saying now, the program coming up now. And Leipzig has found, to their form, a lot of potential match winners in that team. I saw that game, of course, between Dortmund and Eintracht. And Eintracht, I will say, I will have my Eintracht glasses on, but they would at least level them. Then there was the penalty, a great goal from Mats Hummels. They mixed up the goal. Götze got. I mean, there was a big misunderstanding, and there wasn't a defense line that even Postecoglou would have getting into orgasmic heights of his line standing. But so Götze 1-0, and then there were a great goal from Hummels. I will ask how you can defend the way Frankfurt did, but don't take away anything from Mats Hummels. Great goal. And then you had the penalty where Gittens, I guess, was fouled, and then he realized a minute later that he got a kick, and then he fell over. But I think that you can give a penalty there, and Emre Can standing up doing his stuff. So it was a bit nostalgic goal scorers for Dortmund. I think Eintracht Frankfurt will love to have that position they have now. That is a great place in Europe. There should be enough games to do that, but they have to get those vitals win, and now hopefully at home they can sort it out. Augsburg, very impressive coming up there, being the main challenger to Eintracht Frankfurt for that position. But I still think that Eintracht Frankfurt will manage to hold on to it.
There's a brief one on Augsburg there as well. 4 wins in a row. Bear in mind, yes, Torup, the former FC Copenhagen coach, when he took over, Augsburg were terrible under Enrico Mas. And they had 1 win in 7 games, I believe. They were 1 point above the relegation spot. And now they find themselves sort of an outsider and in 8th, I believe, or 7th. And why not see where that could bear fruits? Should we do then Kovac first, Dad, or Streich first in terms of departures? Because two very much end of the spectrum in terms of how they go out of a club.
Yes, Kovac. I've known Kovac for many years. Played against him. He was the coach at Eintracht Frankfurt. I interviewed him in his role at Bayern Munich, where he was successfully both as a player as a manager. Took then over Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg being the kind of, well, got resources. They got the big Volkswagen company behind them. Started the season not so bad, but it's just getting worse and worse. And we've just been waiting now for a couple of weeks that this will be the end. And now he was fired with his brother, by the way, Robert, who is his assistant coach, which is a quite cool story. It's always been they stick together. So Niko Kovač, he knows this part of the business. He knows that you need results, and they haven't got it lately. So that was eventually quite of expected that Niko Kovač will get it. I think they got not enough points. I got 5 or 6 points ahead.
Yeah, they're 25 points. I mean, they're still. Could you say they're involved in it to some extent? I reckon they just need a couple more wins.
They're involved. But I think that, and the funny thing now, another old mate of mine, Ralf Hasenhüttl, who hasn't had a job for a couple of years. Last thing he did was at Southampton in England. He's back in business. The funny thing is, when I played by Rapid Vienna from 89 to 93, in that period, there were 3 teams that was battling it out. That was Rapid Vienna, Austria Vienna, and Tirol Innsbruck. And our rival was Austria Vienna the first 2 seasons, and number 9 in that team, or the striker in that team, was Ralf Hasenhüttl. So I played against him many times. I didn't know that. Now, and we ended up winning the derbies, and he ended up winning the trophy. So, but he's a great lad. He's gone through the Red Bull. He was at Leipzig. He knows the German football.
Done really well with Ingolstadt. Obviously, took them up from the Zweite Bundesliga. Established
absolutely
them
and at the time I visited him in Ingolstadt. We had our goalkeeper Örjan Nyland was there, was his goalkeeper. By the way, Örjan Nyland now seems to extend his contract with Sevilla, playing very well in La Liga, and it's good to see. He's from our area at Sunnmøre as well, which is extra credit for him. Yeah, so I think they've done it. I think that every manager, sport director should always have a plan B when it comes to coaches, and it seems that Ralf Hasenhüttl was always destined if Niko Kovač didn't get the result that was needed, and this was the time. And I think that Niko Kovač, although you will be very disappointed losing your job, of course, he will probably think that he can turn it around. But I think for Wolfsburg now, they need some fresh blood in there, and Ralf Hasenhüttl is not only a good lad, he is always a guy that had his philosophy. I always like to watch his team play, although they had some hammering, was in 9-0 a couple of times for Southampton. But I think that is a good signing for Wolfsburg.
Yeah, for Wolfsburg as well, it was clear following that loss to Augsburg, in which they were unlucky. I think it's not the most sensational of squad compositions, but it's been a lot of almost. For Niko Kovač, you'll think, well, we were 1-0 up through Wimmer, and then he gets sent off, which controversially is such whether he was last man or not. Then off that subsequent free kick, there's a deflection, 1-1, and Kovač will find himself thinking a bit unlucky. But I think, as you pointed to, it was inevitable. I think Wolfsburg would have liked to have kept. I think they had an idea that they would depart at the summer, and I think looking based off Kovac's reaction, the post-match conference and stuff, he was visibly emotional as such. I think for them to conclude it that not that rapidly as they did, like after yesterday, I think did affect him. But the facts remain that it was 11 winless competitive games. It was 2 wins in 20 Bundesliga games. I mean, it's just not good enough, really. And someone for Niko Kovač, just to conclude on the Kovač question, I mean, Kovač has this profile, right, in which he took Frankfurt to a first trophy, I think since '88, was it, with the German Cup, and then he goes to Bayern. He wins a double at Bayern, which now they would have taken, they would have embraced fully. Wins the double there, the first since Felix Magath to get 2 consecutive cup triumphs. Everything looks good. Win in a record fashion, I remember, against Tottenham in the Champions League, and then he gets sacked after losing 5-1 to his former Eintracht. He goes to Monaco, does all right. Monaco has another shot at Bundesliga. I guess where I'm going is Kovač, he's it's a guy with integrity. He's a cool-looking dude. He's a modern manager. But at some point, it seemed as if it was going a bit astray. And I'm wondering why that is.
I think you have to be in the dressing room. You have to follow them very closely to see where it gone. I guess you will always say that when you see Leverkusen now being on a flow, doing a great job, you feel every decision goes for you. Like now against Freiburg, use them as an example, scoring it after 84 seconds, Freiburg equalizing, and then the goalkeeper of Freiburg just give them a goal. And you feel when you're down there, when you're into that flow of bad results, you feel that everything goes against you. And then it's a Murphy's Law. You're just getting worse and worse. So I think that Kovac is there, as you're saying, is a modern coach in terms of modern being one who thinks of new ideas. But on the other hand, he's very disciplined. He wants everything from his players, which is... And it's always how the players you take in, what's the balance in the team, how many of them took the next step, and so on. So I think that inevitable, you will be fired in our branch, and we'll see how quick Kovac bounce back. There are coaches. Yes, you can say there is a lot of coaches who are going the merry-go-round and they just end up in new clubs. But there's also managers who disappear. I don't think Kovac will do that. He was also the coach of the Croatian national team. That's where I got to know him better after our post-retirement of both of us, because I was the manager of the Norwegian national coach with Coach Høgmo. And so I think that he got enough credit to bounce back quite quick.
Yeah, it will be... hopefully, fingers crossed for him that all goes well. I think Hasenhüttl it will be an interesting challenge. I think, Wolves will obviously stay up, and I think they will be able to. I think he's able to muster together some results from this team. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have Christian Streich, who, after 12 years in charge, having been involved with the club for 29 years, since 1995, in a sort of Klopp-esque manner, you could say that, with that departure video in which he just says that I am resigning, and similar vein, and we have to acknowledge this in terms of the managerial profession, it takes a lot out of you, and it seemed, and it had been brewing for some time that it was just a matter of when, but Christian Streich then finally announced his resignation at the end of the summer. That how do we describe a man like Christian Streich, not only for Freiburg but for German football, and how he carried himself as a manager, as a person?
First time I was at Freiburg, doing Freiburg for Topspiel with Sky Germany. We were sitting, we had the table on the chairs in the corner, so we were very, very close to everything. The players used to hit us with balls when we were sitting there, and then I looked at the warm-up and I saw this guy suddenly running forward and back with the team in his jeans and a training jacket. And I thought first, for 2 seconds, I thought that was a fan who had climbed over the fence and doing the warm-up with him. And I said, who in the whole mother of world is that man? And they said that is Coach Streich. That was a coach who was actually running with them forward and back, doing the warm-up. He was not doing the warm-up, he was just running. And running in his jeans, doing some stretches and everything. And I'm not saying that from that moment I loved him, but I think every footballer will, or every football fan will love him. Because the thing with Christian Streich is that he's different. He's different not only in the terms of the years that he stayed there, Markus. There is a tradition at Freiburg to stay for a long time. Before him was Volker Finke. But Streich stayed also, started as a junior coach, knew all the players, managed to take them into the club. I was always, when coaches were arriving in Porsche and big BMWs or Mercedes, he was cycling to training. He was different. He's been different. Thank God that kind of manager type can still be around. He is also very generous. You saw that with the way he complimented Archie, our friend from ESPN, and he just told him the last home game, "You're just a good guy." I like you. And I think that is so cool to see in our tough business doing things like that. That is Streich. Everybody loved to play him. I saw an Instagram post from Niels Pettersen, who played there, of course, who retired, and he just says something. I bow myself in respect for you and what you have done. So Christian Streich, there's always been a discussion, because based on his success, could he do the same thing in other clubs? Which is an interesting discussion, because Freiburg has been Streich, Streich has been Freiburg. So the trend now that Xavi, Klopp, Streich now, they tell us early that they're gonna end. They will probably take some time out. I guess Streich at the moment now, the rest of the season, the last 8 games of the season he will be honored by his opposition. He will be honored by his home crowd. But the funny thing is that at some stage you will miss yourself. You will love to go back. You will love to have that thing. I mean, yes, you can have a great family, you can have a great house, and it's great to have your spare time. But imagine when you've been doing that job for so many years, as Streich has done, that is not only a part of your life, it is your life. So it's going to be interesting to see if he comes back, where he comes back. I see some speculations that Streich could be the new Bundestrainer, the national coach. I'm not sure that will be his stuff, because I think Streich is the guy that needs to be on a training ground every day. And I also doubt a bit that his international pedigree is on the level that you need. Maybe you need more experience on that in terms of the European Cup and everything. But I mean, he's a great man. He not only is a great coach as a human being, always stand up for great values. His philosophy of his coaching philosophy is based on values, and so one of the greatest in German football right now has announced his retirement Monday.
Yeah, and like you say, he embodied very much Freiburg. A lot of people cannot remember Freiburg without Christian Streich, but as well in terms of what, I guess from an outsider point of view, we tend to associate with German football, is that German football is one that is more socially oriented, perhaps, than other leagues, and he was an outspoken sort of critic of whether it relates to far right issues, whether it was more inclusivity for women within the top positions. It was just a man that sort of in many ways stayed consistent with his integrity and his goodness throughout, and I think that is such value in sort of the modern football and the criticism that we have. I mean, the fact that you say that you had Volker Finke there before as well, he'd been there for a while. Bear in mind, he'd taken Freiburg to Europe, but he also got relegated with them, stayed there for a season, got promoted back, and then they've been to Europe 4 times, and now obviously went out to West Ham. But for a club like Freiburg, he's sort of redefined the expectations of what to ask for them. Just a brief, also another departure which hasn't taken too much of the news, but Marco Nepedad, the former technical director of Bayern, he also is leaving, which sort of you had predicted in the sense that where would his role be with Max Eberl and Freund coming in. So he will be out as well. I don't know if there's anything worth saying on that for you.
I'm just saying that I think Max Eberl has said the right things. He has put the right values, the Bayern philosophy. Remember, he's an Ur-Bayern, so he is from the area. He knows how Bayern ticks. I think he's got one official game for Bayern. He played in the youth team under Tiger Gerland, the legendary assistant coach, you got to say the right things. He's sound. And Max Eberl, I know him a bit. He's a great human being. He will understand how to fit in. Just a small thing, Markus. The big thing in Sebenerstrasse is where Bayern train is to have the office with a window out to the training field so you can watch the training field. And when Max Eberl arrived now, he's going to be the boss of Christoph Freund, who came from Salzburg, of course. He got that office, Freund. And of course, Max Eberl said, I don't care. I'm in the other one. That doesn't matter. And I think that the combination between him and Freund will work. But as we have learned over the years, it's all about winning football games. And Bayern do that at the moment. I think that they will have a chance against Arsenal based on their history at Champions League, not the 2 last seasons, but before that. And we'll see if they can get under the skin of your team, Arsenal, Markus. So I think when we now start talking about Champions League, it's time to end. And I can get on the plane to Frankfurt.
Yes, I will let you go. We just concluded real quick. Leipzig beat Köln away 5-1. Convincing at that. Union Berlin, very important 3 points against Werder Bremen at home. Separated them from the bunch at the back there. Mainz beat Bochum. Big win. Heidenheim drew Gladbach 1-1. And then you had Stuttgart really cemented their Champions League spots. 2 assists from Undav, goal from Gursay. Procedure as usual. 3-0 away to Hoffenheim. And then the other games we've gone through. And in the Zweite Bundesliga, all the top 3, 4, 5 teams won. Hamburg won, but so did Holstein Kiel and St. Pauli. So we will see where this all ends as we get to the very tail end, Dad, of the Bundesliga season. I can feel it. It's going to be a good one. But I'll leave you to Frankfurt, Dad. All the best on the birthday celebrations for Eintracht Frankfurt. And then we will catch up during this international break to go through a bit of Germany and what this Nagelsmann revolution looks like.
I think that we can do that in a weekend, Markus, because it's on Friday. I go into the game Norway against Czech Republic. The big debate now in Norway is the new shirt good or bad? I love it. I think it's perfect.
Very different. I respect it.
Yeah, very, very different. So maybe in the next podcast, I will have that shirt on just to show you how that is.
I would love that. Get a cup an extra one for me.
I will. So absolutely. I mean, I'm looking for shirts for you all my life. So I will keep on doing that even when you turn 30. So Markus, auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.